Hello, and welcome to The Walking Dead, Season 7, Let's Talk. This is an Unchained edition, so spoilers will be here. If you haven't seen it or you're planning to see it, and you're scared of spoilers like me, then don't get involved with listening to this. Stop it right now, and watch it once you've finished seeing it. Although I'll warn you now, you haven't missed much, because there ain't a lot happening in Season 7, and we'll get into that discussion. Got myself apps here, and also Logan, who is a avid Walking Dead fan. Love it all,
Yeah,
didn't you? You love the telly, you love the comics.
everything.
Do you? I know
Yeah,
you
got it. I've got it all.
haven't got the comics, have you?
I ain't got any of it.
No. But we both like the TV show,
Yeah,
and we've watched from season one, obviously, and I think the general opinion is that it's kind of slowly got worse as time's gone on. Let's talk about season 7 first of all. It's a 16 episode run, so they've been doing this for quite a few seasons now. It kicks off with that terrible, terrible cliffhanger they left in season 6, with Negan basically wiping out one of the group. We knew that was happening. We didn't know that was until episode 1. Turns out in the end that it's going to be Abraham and Glenn both put down. Um, Any surprise on this front as to who they actually decided to put down? I was surprised there was two people, I'll admit that. It's probably one of the few surprises that I had during this whole 16 episode run, was that they decided to wipe out two fairly mainstay characters.
yeah. I think I was surprised it was two, the same as you were, but I was also surprised. I genuinely thought Glenn was one of the untouchables. I
Right.
always felt that Abraham was always on the edge
Yeah.
of a cliff, and they were ready to push him at any point. Honestly, I thought there's been a couple of times where they've threatened to get rid of him, and I thought, well, you can do really, but because Glenn's been there from the start, I
Mm,
thought that core group, the ones that got this far, had kind of all basically stick around. But yeah, I was
yeah.
surprised to see him go. I really was. I couldn't. I think it was more the way that he went as well, rather than
Yeah.
the fact that he'd gone as well. Like, it was probably the most brutal bit of TV I've ever seen.
It was savage, wasn't it? Both the killings or the executions were savage. It's Negan's infamous baseball bat. Um,
I've
just
not been brought up to cope with that.
no, basically pummeling two skulls into mush. Essentially, what
Like,
happens? They don't cut away for a lot of it either.
it is very graphic to the point where I was just like, every time that baseball bat come out throughout the series, it was kind of like, right, I don't want to see that.
Right, so it
It,
worked. That worked in a sense on you. That having it, it it smashed two skulls at that had an effect further on down the season, which I assume is what they was aiming for with that.
you would have thought so because you thought, right, well, if he's done it once, he's clearly capable of doing that again.
Mm,
But yeah, it was by far they kicked off the series with that, and I thought, right, this geezer's going to really fuck them up.
yeah,
He's really going to cause them problems. They need to deal with him.
yeah. No, exactly. I mean, there's actually a lot of complaints from how brutal that opening episode was. People saying it was the equivalent of torture porn, and it's going too far and whatnot. I didn't have a problem with it, but I'm a bit of a sadistic fucker. I don't get too concerned with that sort of stuff.
I
Just
don't think I looked at it and went, that's unacceptable. I was just
no.
surprised at the level of gore. Like, if you
Mm,
haven't seen it, then if you go and have a look on Twitter or on the internet anywhere, there's pictures of how his makeup was done and stuff. You sent them
yeah.
to me afterwards, didn't you? And I was like, Jesus. But it's really good makeup, but it basically knocks Glenn's eye out of its
Mm,
socket,
yeah.
and it's just so realistically grim that it sort of hurts you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was very well done in that sense that it looked the part and obviously had an effect on people. You mentioned that you thought that Glenn was one of the untouchables, and I think we've discussed this. Obviously, we've never done a discussion like this on Dimp before, you for TV or whatever, so people won't have ever heard our offline discussions. But I think we've both had bought into the idea that there are certain characters that are bulletproof or the untouchables, and to be fair, Glenn was probably the list for me stands at this at the moment. It stands as Rick, Carl,
Yeah.
um, and maybe Michonne. I'm struggling to think of others now that I would put on that list and say, right, you are now untouchable because maybe Daryl, but I've got a feeling that with Daryl they will kill him off to annoy people. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where like, well, fuck you lot, you're moaning about it, have that. Saying it's too predictable, and I'll go, well, I predicted that. So, who's on your kind of untouchable list? Do you agree with that, or are there more, such as Maggie, maybe Carol, that sort of thing?
I think Maggie might be. I think because they've got rid of Glenn, though, that makes her kind of vulnerable because they come in pairs now, other than Daryl. But Daryl
Yeah.
I'd put with Carol.
Yeah.
I kind of see Daryl and Carol, Rick and Qual. I don't see Michonne as untouchable.
Right.
I don't. I don't know why, but even though they've named a game after her, I just don't see her as untouchable. I
Yeah.
think she can be dispensed with, and nobody would really be too disappointed.
No, I'd agree with that. The reason I thought Glenn was I kind of not expect him to die, but I thought he got very dull in the last few seasons. Like, he wasn't doing a lot, and the only thing that I sat there and thought, right, maybe they won't kill him, is because they made such a fuss in the last episode where they done that whole switcheroo, didn't they? Where they kind of
Yeah.
faked his death and then he didn't die, and I thought, well, you're not going to be doing that just to kill him off the very next season, because it's a lot of effort and people were actually pissed off with that, saying, oh, you fucking tricked me, and it was like, well, come on. Come
That
on.
was obvious.
Yeah.
Everyone saw that.
And so I thought they've got longer term plans for him, but evidently 6 episodes later he's laying there with his eye hanging out his head. And you think, can he recover from this? No.
There was still part of me when he got whacked in the head and his eyeball come out. I thought he ain't dead yet.
Yeah.
And then, well, his brain got turned to mush, and I thought,
he finished the
yeah,
job.
you ain't coming back from that.
No, he got completely and utterly finished off there.
I genuinely just thought he was one of them characters. He's been there literally since like the first episode 2 maybe or something. He probably turned up.
His voice appears in episode. Oh, does it appear in episode 1? I can't remember how they do it now, but he's certainly in 2. Yeah, he's the one who helps Rick out of that.
Out the tank
the tank and whatnot. And I don't know if his voice appears at the very end of 1, just as like a little, who's that on the walkie-talkie. But yeah, he's been there. He's one of the originals for sure.
So I'm a little bit disappointed in that respect that he's gone. He was one of the characters that I didn't mind. Like, I was quite happy for him to be there. It's just like, I don't know how that long-haired fuck's getting away with it, and Glenn's getting put down. I don't know.
My assumption, the long-haired fuck is Eugene. So
yeah,
my assumption was he was going to get taken down. I didn't see him surviving this, but he did somehow. He got away with it. And it was Lord Abraham and Glenn put on the backs, and that was basically the main focal point of the episode, was Negan doing that, and also getting to the stage where Rick was going to cut Carl's arm off. Like he'd broken him essentially. It looked like at that point. I thought, right, interesting. An interesting start. Like, I wanted him to cut Carl's arm off. Make no bones about it, I want Carl dead. I've wanted him dead since probably the 3rd episode of season 1. So all these close shaves are beginning to hurt me mentally. I just want him out of the way. Like when he got shot in the eye in season 6, and I thought, right, that's it. Finally, they've done it.
that should have been when he got shot in the eye. That should have been a game over.
Yeah, and
there's no point in shooting him in the eye and then him surviving that, because you ain't in that world.
No,
you ain't surviving being shot in the head.
Infections, all sorts. Even if he'd survived the trauma of it, there would have been some sort of. It would have been sanitised properly. It needed surgery. Telling you. So that annoyed me, and then I thought, well, now they've done that, same as Glenn's, but they've made a fuss out of him surviving a perilous situation. They won't kill him off, and they didn't in the end. And there's another point towards the end of the season that there was a chance to have him killed off in 2, in fact, where he should have been just dead already. But I guess the takeaway from that first episode is that Rick is almost to a certain extent broken, and then the group themselves are kind of shell shocked. This is the most vulnerable we've probably seen them. I think during all the seasons, they were completely knocked on their arse and beaten to the punch. What was your expectations going into the rest of the season? Was you thinking, right, 15 more of these, where are we going to get to?
Well, I've been scarred by a few of these series.
Right.
So I
Which
kind of,
let's hear them.
well, I just a lot of promise has been followed up by a lot of nothing, basically, isn't it? When you boil it down to it, there's a lot
Yeah.
of nothing going on. So I kind of thought, right, they've peaked here. I don't really see how it's going to
Right,
get a
yeah.
lot better immediately. Um, and it didn't really.
No.
You could tell that Rick was broken, that he was basically under the thumb. And I just thought, I don't see. And as the series goes on, it kind of they get everything taken. They've got nothing. They've got
Yeah.
like they're really under the microscope. Fucking Carl's causing problems. And I just thought, I don't see a way out of this mess. I really
No.
don't. They're all split up, and there's all these little sub villages that are going on, and uh,
Yeah.
it got a bit messy. I think there was a lot. You could probably count 3 or 4 episodes where something meaningful happened in that series. So once every 4 episodes, basically.
Tune in and you'll find something interesting.
Yeah, and you could tell from the tone of an episode what sort of episode it's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, what's that bird that's just had a kid? My brain is fucking malfunctioning
What do you mean
in
that
real
bird?
life. Alana
Right.
Masterson, her real name is. I know that. Do you not know?
What's going on
She's a
here?
lesbian. Her fucking les mate got shot.
Look, I don't be dealing with people's personal lives. I can't be. Oh, Tara.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. So the doctor got shot. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Put
So
down.
Tara, was this the episode as well where she went off for an episode? They did like a little bit on her. That was series 7 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there was a. This is. I mean, I've got some standout points which we'll go through. But some of the took they decided to do was a whole episode dedicated to her going off and discovering this all women's group that I think had been under the dictatorship of Negan and the Saviors, and essentially getting to know them. And that was I remember I was watching that on the Monday when it airs. I was sitting there and I was like, this is awful. Like I was actually got my phone out and just started sort of half switching off. People go, oh, you missed it. You missed it. No, there's nothing to miss. I wasn't missing anything by getting on that phone and looking at other things.
No.
I just switched on when I heard something meaningful was going to happen, and there were too many episodes like that.
Yeah.
That blew it basically and slowed the whole season down. It moves along at the slowest pace possible, in my view.
Yeah. That's what I felt. There was a lot of nothingness. And I thought, okay, I could see it move on a little bit. Like they introduced King Ezekiel, and they introduced this women's group, and then they introduced Hilltop.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, I can see where they're going here. They're introducing these different villages, which on their own are not much good against Negan, but if they all come together, then they might be able to do something. And I thought, I can see what's going on. That's what they're doing. Daryl, meanwhile, has been captured and he's been broken. I'm thinking, right, well, Daryl ain't going to be sticking it out in there, is he? And it's just not going to happen.
No.
Like, why even threaten the idea that you might break him because you ain't? It's stuff like that where I think people ain't falling for it. So,
No.
like, what are we doing? And so he gets broken out, basically. Someone gets him out of there. And then they're all just building their little armies going on. A few little side bits going on. You've got Thingy that wants those 2 girls that want to try and kill Negan, and they're just on a fucking
Sasha,
mission to nothing. It's literally never going to happen. You'd go, right, you ain't getting in there. Cole's already tried it once, and that was foolish. So what? You're going to try and snip him from a mile away, are you? Blew that. It's just like there's too much going on. I just want them to focus on one thing.
What's that, killing Carl?
Well, he needs to be put down, but it's just there was too much going on, and it was like No Man's Sky. That's why I'm putting it.
Not
Because
enough depth.
Yeah.
It's just scattergun.
It's scattergun. And it didn't need 16. I wouldn't mind if they went if each of these things did something. Like, does that make sense? But they could only scratch the surface on it because they've essentially got 16 lots of 45 minutes.
Yeah, and they can't be filling it properly.
They can't be filling it within enough depth, otherwise you need 32 episodes, and I can't be dealing with that.
No.
So basically, within those
Please don't
episodes,
make more episodes. If anyone's listening, do not take this as we want 32 episodes. I want less.
I probably
more
want
dense
10 or 12
tops.
Yeah.
Put it down to fucking 8. Teach them a
So
lesson. They won't.
to be fair, I'd probably rather have 8 hour and a quarter episodes, something like that.
Yeah.
Something it it just feels like by the time it gets somewhere nowadays,
Mm.
it switches off. You think, right, go on, and then it just goes no. And I don't get me wrong, I like the cliffhanger approach. Sometimes it's good. I like a
Yeah.
good cliffhanger, but Walking Dead does it almost 2 or 3 times.
And it's always poor payoff.
Yeah, like every season, there's sort of 2, 3, or 4 of these mini cliffhangers, if you like. And I just go, well, I'm just bored of it. I'm bored of being, just finish it off for me. I'm going to come back next season and watch it anyway.
Yeah.
You don't need to give me an incentive to keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
Fucking finish it off. I don't see the necessity for it. No one's going to go, right, I can just call it a day now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I've got to series 8 and they're still leaving me on a fucking cliffhanger, the cunts. Winds me up.
That is what happens, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, you summed up the kind of plot almost.
Gone on a mini rant there, haven't I?
Rant. Well, in that rant, it was essentially it was that after the initial episode, the name of the game is getting all those other factions together to take on Negan and kill him and the Saves essentially. In amongst all that, you have Carl, who, as I said, this bulletproof motherfucker who can't die. It doesn't matter what position they put him in. Like, we've already seen that Negan's a ruthless motherfucker. So he wipes Abraham out in that first episode, goes, right, that's your punishment. Daryl gets up and gives him a right hook, and he goes, right, I'm not having that. And that's why Glenn gets wiped out. So you think, right, stop messing with this bloke. He will just absolutely cave your skull in.
Yeah.
Carl rocks up to the Savior's base one day in the back of a van, shoots 3 of his men. Negan lets him get away with it.
Actually takes him in and
tries to convert him. I'm like, no, he should be murdered on sight for that sort of behaviour. It's just poor writing. It's inconsistent garbage, and it really.
I wouldn't mind it if he just did it once because he thought he was a kid, right? That's my problem with it.
Yeah.
Is that he just keeps on. He does that one initial bit, and then you go, right, he is fucking ruthless. He's just bashed 2 people's head in for absolutely fuck all. I say fuck all. They murdered a load of their geezers, but he has bashed 2 people's head in, right, brutally, and then nearly fucking did Carl's arm.
Yeah.
Right. So at that point, you're setting the tone and you're saying, this geezer ain't going to stand for your shit. And then throughout the rest of the fucking season, anyone that does anything there, either gets fucking taken in or, like, even when Thingy tries to shoot him and he hits him in the bat, doesn't give a fuck. Like, it's just all this stuff that he just keeps letting them get away with. Yeah. I'm just like, what? So was that all? What was that one episode where you tried to set the tone, just complete horse shit then?
The thing was, he was more lenient with Rick's group. Like you said, I think it was Rosetta who tried to shoot him, and it hit his bat, and then he gutted Spencer, who was dispensable in everyone's eyes because he was trying to like coerce with him anyway. So he got gutted, and that was almost like the punishment. But then if you go back to like the Saviour's part, I remember one episode he threw some poor fucker in the fire for no real apparent reason. He sticks irons on their faces. So in amongst his own house, he seems more ruthless. But against the outside group, he's letting them get away with all sorts.
The whole time I was trying to figure out what he was trying to do with Rick's group. Like in a weird kind of way, did he actually respect them? Like, did he
You're giving them writers too much credit by...
Well, I tried to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, and I think
they didn't know what they were doing.
Is he just treating them as like a little game, or what? Like, is he just seeing what goes on there? But
Carl should be dead. He shot 3 of his men. There's no way on earth he gets away with that. Kill him.
Like, someone that ruthless who can bat people in the head and put irons to faces. Don't let kids get away with it. Especially if they kill 3 of your blokes. You take him back, you kill him, you go, look, he killed 3 of my blokes, send him again. Someone tries to do this, you fucking get killed.
Yeah. And especially that it's the leader, quote unquote, of the group's son. So you send the double message saying, look, I've murdered your son over that. So what do you think I'll do to the rest of you?
Again, though, I sit here thinking, well, is he sort of trying, he's bashed 2 of them over the head, he's making his arm pull. Does he then feel like he needs to get that group back on side so they'll be productive for him?
Well, maybe.
Like, improve relations. But then if you're going to do that, don't go around batting people in the head. So
it's difficult to turn that around, isn't it, when you've caved two skulls in?
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to be productive like he wants them to be. What else happens? Eugene. Well, so one of the more interesting parts I found of the season was the fact that Eugene is handpicked from Negan because he finds out he can essentially make ammunition and build things, and he's quite a useful asset. So he flips him, or we think he's flipped him anyway. It appears as though Eugene has joined Negan's cause and is part of their group. I would prefer it if he stayed like that and didn't have any qualms about putting a bullet in Rick or anyone else's head or doing something for Negan's cause. But I've got a feeling it's going to be another one of these stupid double crossings, and then at the end of an episode, at some point, Eugene's going to save one of Rick's group, probably Carl, just to really piss me off. Like he'll get in another situation, and in season 8, Eugene will sacrifice himself for that little shit. But that was one of the more interesting things, trying to figure out whether that's genuine. What do you think on Eugene's front? Do you think has joined the Saviors outright and he's on their side, or is he kind of just playing the game to keep alive, and he's actually, thinking about of Rick's original group?
So I was thinking about this when I was watching it, and he seemed to flip into that survival mode that got him with
Abraham, yeah.
Yeah, he seemed to flip into this
lie.
Yeah, like this lie that he was living. He seems to have resorted back to that lie. I genuinely think he's just. Everyone's got their own little survival mode. Some people are good at fighting. He's good at lying and surviving another way. And I kind of respect that in a way from him, that he just goes, right, I've got to do what I've got to do.
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit. I ain't a fighter, so I'll make myself an asset to whoever I'm around. Like, he realises he's not a Daryl. Like, he's not going to be able to sit there and get beaten every day and stay strong. So he's just gone, look, all right, I'll do what you want. Like, I'm not actively killing people or harming my group. I'm not actively helping you. I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I think he's just resorted to his defence mode, if you like.
Yeah.
He may switch out of that and go back with Rick.
It's going to happen. It will happen, and then I'll be sitting there going, right.
I don't see him getting a bullet put in his head.
I want Rick to kill him, and then for me to be like, right, there you go. That's a bit of development there. Like, he's willing to put down this guy for kind of turning on them, and then that Eugene was genuinely flipped. But I just got a feeling he'll go crawling back one day and help him out, and it'll wind me up. Because you've got people like Dwight, who is part of Negan's clan, who's got sick of his regime and wants to now try and help out the bloody Rick's group, and you think, well, hang on, how's that happening?
Well, that's all a bit complicated with Dwight as well, isn't it?
I'm not even bother getting into it. We don't even know what he's doing, but essentially he wants to stitch Negan up after years of being there. I think it's his wife, wasn't it, that he ended up.
Well, from what I've gathered, he basically surrendered his wife to Negan.
Yeah.
Something happened there, and the reason he got his face put like that was because he did something.
Got that fucking iron put on there, didn't he?
Yeah, for something to do with his wife, but he's always hated Negan for that.
Yeah.
And now his wife's basically run away from Negan. He doesn't feel like he's got that. He was keeping his missus alive, I think, is what he was getting at. Or he's keeping her safe. But now she's gone, then he can defect, basically. He doesn't have to be involved with that shit. Yeah. That's what I'm getting from that. But whether that's genuine or not, you just don't know.
No. I mean, it's just one of those things. Again, it's adding importance to characters that I don't care about. And they keep doing this to certain people. Like Dwight, I don't care if he comes over. He ain't going to turn the tide. He shouldn't turn the tide. The same they did with Sasha. They built up 2 or 3 episodes of, her basically, now that Abraham's gone, wanting to, doesn't really care for much. She got a bloody great, big, massive send-off, pretty much.
Yeah.
Spent all that time, and I was like, that's not a character to spend time on killing off. You say Glenn, who's been in it for about 100 episodes, and his head caved in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
He didn't get a great, big, long flashback sequences and all that shit. And I was like, it's just them putting importance to characters that I just didn't care about. The fact that Sasha's dead now I'm like, fine, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I don't feel like she's missed.
Cull the lot of them. Get down to the bulletproofs and start culling them. Then we'll see what's really going on. Essentially, the season ends with Alexandria, Hilltop, and the Kingdom being, united against Negan, and that the tagline is that war is now on. So they're going to go to war, and we're going to have 16 episodes of war, probably. in the next season. But that's essentially where it ends. It goes from the group being on their knees to being able to pretty much stand up against Negan, and now they're not working for them. It would appear that they're going to form together and go at each other, and Rick's group will inevitably win, and Negan will be dead by the end of next season. That's just my prediction. Looking at the season as a whole, I think we both agree there's too many episodes. For one, that ain't helping.
No.
It feels too bloated and too predictable. Not that there's much to predict, because not a lot happens, but there's a certain point at the end of the finale where Negan is about to wipe out Carl finally for all the shit that he's done and for Rick's group misbehaving, and then at the last second they get saved by bloody Kingdom turning up, and it's like, well, we all knew that was going to happen. Do you agree with those three sentiments? Too many episodes, too bloated, and too predictable.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything they can do to solve that? Well, it's not really, because they're going to do another 16.
It's difficult. I don't mind them developing characters, but I'm just trying to go back. I'm trying to think back into sort of the earlier days. And they did, but they did it in a different kind of way. Like, I think the thing that I'm sick of now is that it's become less about. It's not really zombie survival. It's just post-apocalyptic survival. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
And then
they're nothing now. There's the walkers or the zombies. They're not
an inconvenience at best.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't mind that necessarily, but I just don't. They seem to go from series where, like, thinking back to the prison, walkers were a problem.
Yeah.
So why are they no longer a problem? They're still going to be a problem.
Adapted.
Where's all this petrol coming from? Where are these ammo? Where's all these bullets coming from? It just annoys me that after all these years, there's still all this stuff that they're fighting. Why have we not resorted? Why has nobody made bows and arrows and stuff? Or like, I don't know. It just amazes me. I just think, how long can we go on just fighting modern battles in a post-apocalyptic zone? Like, it's called The Walking Dead, i.e. it's about zombies, and this whole thing just has literally, I can't remember the last time someone got killed by a zombie.
Yeah, not without the aid of some human shooting them.
So I just think, right, well, it's become less and less about that, and I get it kind of would, but I don't know. I kind of want to wrap it up after this season. I just want them to go, right, Negan's dead. We've got all this done.
That is what inevitably will end up happening. I just think that it's all.
I genuinely think in worlds like that, evil would, or bad would preside over it.
Yeah.
It ain't, good people ain't going to survive in that world. That is the way that I look at it.
Well, there is the argument that Rick's group aren't exactly good.
No, they're
really.
not.
They went and slaughtered, a lot of the saviours in that outpost who were all having a kip in that. And, if you look at Negan's motivation for teaching them a lesson, you go, well, in some ways that's justified. And, it's difficult for people to get their head around, but that is part of it. It's gone from like great must-see television to trash TV. Like acceptable trash TV. I'm not putting it in the same category as the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, but in terms of the stuff that I've seen on television over the last few years, everything else has moved on. It's getting better and better television out there. There's so much good stuff out there, and this is now at the bottom rung of it. It's reminded me a little bit of how Prison Break got, and they've brought Prison Break back. You think, what are you doing? But that started off strongly and then just faded off and become borderline garbage. But I just don't. Everything else, Game of Thrones is still. I think that's waned a little bit. I've been watching things like The Affair, watching lots of different TV shows, and they're all very, very good at what they do. And this just has declined and declined. The fact is that I've got very little sympathy with that group anymore.
You start to lose an affinity for them.
Who would I be annoyed about who's put in danger now? I'm not, because A, I know there's very little threat for the bulletproof, the unbeatable. What do we call them? The untouchables.
Mm.
So you think, well, they're not getting any sort of peril. I'll tell you what, there's one episode in this season where they try and make out Rick had died. Do you remember when him and Michonne had gone off
That
to
was
find
almost
guns?
embarrassing. That.
And you just think, you're not fooling anyone with that garbage! Why bother trying to make it a moment?
That whole episode, by the way, was fucking appalling.
Yeah.
It's literally offering nothing. They could have all they could have had was 10 seconds come up on the screen of text saying Rick and Michonne are out looking for guns to pay them fucking weird cunts off.
Yeah.
And you'd have gone, all right, I'll
Yeah.
save myself an hour then.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
No, it was garbage. And yeah, I just feel like it's getting left in the lurch. This Walking Dead, whatever they're doing, there's other TVs just dwarfing it
Well,
and becoming more enjoyable.
A TV show that I really like at the moment is called Vikings. It's
Yes.
probably not. Have you seen that?
I've not seen it, but I've heard good things about it.
It's very good. It's a bit like a mixture of Game of Thrones and something else. I can't think at the moment, but it's sort of a bit sort of like that. But people are getting you've got your untouchables in it, but
Right.
that's okay. It's not too big a group. It's sort of like 4 people.
Yeah.
Really. And you go, all right, I can deal with that, 4 people. But things move on in it. You don't have many, if any, episodes where the story doesn't move and they just sit and focus on one pointless aspect. Something happens to move that story forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's what The Walking Dead lacks, is that, like that episode with Tara didn't move the story forward. All it did was an hour to introduce another pointless group.
Yeah.
Right? Don't need an hour to do that.
No.
Don't need it, so don't do it. Then you've got another episode where you've got Rick and fucking Michonne just going off and just looking for weapons, and I'm just like, all right, again, not needed. There's just so many episodes in there that don't move the story forward and use that whole episode just to introduce one small aspect. And I think that's what fucks me off, is that if they're not that important, you don't need to spend. You could just do one whip round of them just going from town to town.
Yeah.
Like a montage or whatever, and seeing these different groups. They're dispensable characters. You're not. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to introduce them. So just say, this is what we're doing. We're going and we're doing that in a movie style way, and that's fine. That saves me 6 episodes already.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I said there's too. I just think there's too many episodes, and they're thinking, how can we long this out? And as part of the product of that, you lose any kind of tight narrative storytelling. You just get a lot of filler and stuff moving along slowly. Just to put it, this is how bad it's got. Well, not how bad it's got. This is where my mind is. Oh, my favourite character is Negan.
I like Negan though. I do like him.
And then you go, why have I got to be rooting for them if that's going on? I'd rather he just wiped them all out.
I don't know if I'm rooting for him, but he's a good character. He's an interesting.
He's played very well.
He does it well. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he does a great job with that.
And I think that's what disappoints me most, is that he just breathes a little bit of life into it. He's not dull. He's sort of got a little bit of humour about him, a little bit of self-confidence that the programme's been lacking. Rick sort of looking into himself, going, "Ooh, Cole and his puberty problems," and then. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's sort of got too many problems. There's no one happy in that group.
Yeah.
Then you get Negan come along who just has a little bit of a laugh about it, and it's just a bit refreshing.
Yeah. He certainly does a great job. I think it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan who plays him, and when he comes on the screen, I think, right, I'll focus here because it's going to be something half decent usually, either in the way he delivers the lines or what he says. Definitely one of my favourites, but. Well, we will be back when season 8 rolls around in the autumn of this year, and maybe we'll pop back and I assume we're both going to be watching Game of Thrones.
Yep.
We'll come back and do a mini review of that, or let's
mini
talk
rant.
or whatever. Yeah. Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
I feel like they're kicking on a little bit there. That's been stagnating a little bit. And I feel like they're getting to a stage where there's 2 things that have got to happen. Which I won't say in case people aren't prepared for that kind of spoiler to come down the pipe. But I feel like they're open to putting that to bed now and just making sure it's finished off in the right way. Whereas this, they're like, nope, let's just keep it rolling. I think no, it's not the way to work it. But thanks very much for joining me
Yeah, no
on this
problems.
edition of Let's Talk, and we'll be hopefully doing a few more bits of pieces on telly and films also when we get off our asses to go and see them, and just sort of expand a little bit out of the video games universe. But nothing more for us to say apart from thanks for your time and ta-da.